Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are continuing on with our Christmas card series here in 2025, and I have another card for you today. This one features really the sentiment. So the sentiment is what is going to take center stage in this card. Again, this is very easy to mass produce. It just is a lot of die cutting. If die cutting is not your jam and stamping is, you can conversely you can alternatively use your stamps to accomplish the same thing. So I have this set here from Trey Ink. This is called Christmas Bouquet. I went to their website and looked. It is still available as of the filming of this video, which was in October. So I wanted to see, just kind of double check how this poinsettia was supposed to come together. It has like a pine needle, it has a twig and berries, it has just kind of like a traditional leaf shape, excuse me, as well. But I just wanted kind of a pine shape and then kind of more of like a holly shape leaf. And then I didn't want to use the biggest poinsettia shape because I felt like that dwarfed my letters that I used. So I chose kind of the medium size one. And then I chose to kind of layer that up a little bit. And I did all of my die cutting off screen using some HAMMERMILL, just scraps of HAMMERMILL cardstock I had in my stash. And then I wanted to use this embossing folder from Darice. I apologize, I do not know what it is called, but it is from Darice. Any embossing folder you have in your stash will work. That'll be just fine. I just wanted to use this one because I really liked the diagonal stripes. That meant that I didn't have to worry too much about putting my cardstock in there straight, as if I was using something that had more of a, straight horizontal pattern. The inks I'm using are a combination of Simon Says Stamp, their Positively Saturated line, and Concord and 9th. The reds are all from Simon Says Stamp, and I have watermelon, Cabernet, Sangria, and Cranberry here. And then for my kind of pool aqua colors, I've got TIDEPOOL, Lakefront, and Peacock. And those are from Concord and 9th. The alphabet dies were cut using some that was actually cut using scraps of Paper Studio Gold cardstock using the Pinkfresh Studio Jeff Alpha dies. Those actually come with like a shadow layer as well. I just chose not to use the shadow layer, just the letter itself. So I went ahead and, like I said, did all of my die cutting off screen. Here you see my ugly mug getting in the screen there. I'm just trying to make sure that this is lined up as best I can. I chose to keep the positive and the negative of one of each of these so that I could lay each of these pieces into my MISTI like a puzzle piece. That meant that when I went to stamp, I could stamp really quickly, really rapidly, very accurately, and that helps save time, especially when you're in mass production mode. That will help you save time. And that's one of the biggest things that I needed right now, was to save some time. I like to film ahead my videos, and I'm getting to the point where I'm getting kind of burned out on mass production. There's some things that I just want to try or make just for me, and so or make for just the sake of making. And so I really needed something to move rather quickly here so that I could move on. So here you just see me trying my best to assure that I've got all of these stamps in the right spot, as even as I possibly can on each side. And then I pick them up with the door of my MISTI. And that is another huge time saver for me, is having some stamp positioning tool. I have this one. I have kind of the regular size MISTI. And then I also have the Stamp Wheel 2.0 from Altenew. All of them are great, and I use them all. I use all of them. It just kind of depends on what I'm creating and how big it is, which one I actually use. So this one I was able to use my scraps and kind of get everything aligned. Once I had everything aligned where I thought they should go, I did use my little grid transparency here just to ensure that I had everything lined up right. And I inked it up. I inked my stamps up, and then I stamped them down. And I was pleased with the positioning for the most part. So I was able to clean that off and go ahead and begin the stamping process. So for the first layer of that holly shape, I used the Lakefront. For the first layer of the more pine sprig, I used the TIDEPOOL. For the bottom layer of kind of the big poinsettia shape, I used, what did I use? Sangria, maybe? Cherry? Something. I used something there. I'll have all of the colors that I used listed below. So for that small piece, I know that is the Cabernet, whichever one is darker. Sangria and Cabernet are all in the same color family, and one of them is just the darkest one, and I can't remember which one that is. It is very early in the morning, and I did not sleep very well, so I apologize that this voiceover is very discombobulated. I'm so sorry. Bear with me. I promise it'll get better sometime. That brighter color is actually cranberry, I think. And all you see me do is I stamp it down and I lay in another piece, and I stamp it down and I lay in another piece and I stamp it down. If you wanted to simplify this process even further, you could use less colors of ink. If you wanted to, I don't think it would be wrong to stamp this very first layer of the poinsettia as green and making it look like it has leaves behind it. I don't think that would be wrong. In fact, I did toy with the idea when I first stamped this out. I wasn't sure I was happy with the color combination, and I did toy with the idea of changing that to green so that I would have some other, I would have another a third green element, I guess you could say. And you could do that. If you didn't want to stamp the extra greenery pieces, just stamp that first layer of that poinsettia as green and then stack the other layers on top of it. And that will give it dimension, and that'll still read as a poinsettia. Once that first layer was stamped on all of the greenery and that first layer of the poinsettia, it was time to do the next layer. So here I'm just trying to decide what color I want to do on top. And I think I end up going with, I think that says Sangria. That is one of the darker colors. And then I did the Peacock for the dark layer on the, I think I did the Peacock for both of them. So I did that for the more pine sprig looking one and the one that looks more like a holly branch. I did the Peacock for both of those. It's just a really deep, rich, beautiful teal color. I really liked this color combination together. I thought they looked really nice. I forgot to mention that the colored cardstock I used that I did the dry embossing on, that is actually from I get all of my colored cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse. I feel like, first off, I feel like a broken record because I say this in every video that I use colored cardstock. I feel like I get the best bang for my buck and quality from them. The more you purchase, the greater discount you get. I feel like they have a really good color selection and the quality is good. I like heavier weight cardstock. So, and they have a lot of options of different thicknesses and weights of cardstock there. So, the green one is Powder Green from Colorplan, and then the pink is Blossom from Lessebo. And that's just where I prefer to get my colored cardstock. So anyways, you saw me kind of lay things out in my hand, just trying to see if I liked how things were going to layer up, and I was okay with it. I do think that I would have stamped that bottom layer and maybe a different hue of red. I feel like that Sangria on the bottom, it didn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense. So I probably would have done some of my ink layering a little differently, but this is the first time that I have done some ink layering as far as, stamping in a long time. So it was kind of coming back to me some do's and don'ts, in my opinion, about what you should and should not do and what does and does not look good together. So I'm just going through and going to finish stamping all of these together. The second and third layer of that poinsettia, I just did in separate layers because I knew I wanted to add, some foam tape on there and add extra dimension. And so I just chose to do it that way, so that I could kind of offset things more and get even more interest on there. So that was kind of my whole reasoning, but I wanted to make sure there was a second layer of color on there, just in case somebody was able to kind of see under it. They wouldn't see just white. Once everything was die cut, it was time to assemble, and I have a HAMMERMILL card base, a white card base made out of HAMMERMILL cardstock. It's just a regular A2 size, so when folded it measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I have that piece of Blossom cardstock from Lessebo that we did our dry embossing on, and that was cut down to 3 3/4, no, 4 by 5 1/4. No, 3 3/4 by 5. Whatever. It was cut down. I cut it down. I wanted there to be a little bit of a border. Here I am taking a Spectrum Noir clear glitter brush pen, and I am adding some sparkle to every layer of this flower. I wanted there to be just a little bit of shine, and something to be aware of. The liquid in here will move water reactive ink, so be aware of that. It didn't move it bad enough, but on that top layer I could see where it was starting to move the ink. That didn't bother me any, but just something to be aware of. Here I have a Dollar Tree foam square that I have cut in half, and I'm going to layer that behind the bigger, kind of the second layer there of that poinsettia, and I'm going to layer that final smaller layer on top of that, just with liquid glue. You see there I have glue all from Elmer's. Y'all, this is the bomb.com. This stuff is awesome. First off, it does not clog. I know that with my glue press, I don't know what stars have to align just so, but I feel like there are times where I just fight with that all day long. Like, it clogs constantly, and I don't know what is different. And it'll clog like in the same crafty session. Like, it'll just keep clogging, and I don't know what's going on. But there's the Flower Compete. I thought it looked really nice. So now it's a matter of just kind of laying things out, and I'm going to start with the flower because that's going to be like the center point. So I'm laying out the flower and then the greenery around it, and then finally I will layer on those Pinkfresh Studio Jeff Alpha letters. So back to the glue press. Like, I'm not using a glue that is particularly thick. I'm not using one that's super thin. Like, it's just a normal, regular glue. But that glue press clogs all the time. This has not clogged one time. And it has like this little built-in like needle, so to speak, in it. It does not clog. I was concerned that it would not dry actually clear. It does. It also dries super fast. So I make notebooks and journals and things like that. And sometimes I use glue to adhere them into the, spine of the, cover of the book. And I was curious if that would work or not, and if I could tear pages out and they would tear cleanly. Spoiler alert, they do, and it was wonderful, and it dried incredibly fast, even with like a super thick layer on there. So this is my new glue of choice. I have been using reptile glue for years now, but that stuff is super expensive. For a liquid glue, it is very expensive. It's good stuff. Don't get me wrong. It is very good stuff. I would recommend it, but its price is up there. This bottle that you see right here, I got from Dollar General. It was $2 for 4 ounces. So if I get 8 ounces, it's $4, right? So let's math here for a minute. So I purchase the reptile glue from Amazon, and it is an 8-ounce bottle, and it is virtually $20. This stuff is incredible and is just as good and a fraction of the cost. So I actually stocked up on this from Amazon, and this is now my glue of choice. So anyway, as I was jibber jabbering, you saw me kind of layer those letters on. So on some of the cards, I did them in a line, to where it said joy in a line horizontally across, but I accidentally was just kind of throwing the letters down as I was mass producing this, and I discovered that I actually really liked it kind of going up at this angle right here. I thought that looked really pretty, so I ended up doing that for the remainder of the cards. So here you see where I was doing them kind of in a line. My eyeballs are terrible, so me getting those actually in a line was, quite the feat. So I enjoyed the freedom and the, forgiving nature of putting them kind of at an angle. Here I have some sequins from a Colorful Life Designs. These are their gold holographic, hologram gold. These are so pretty. This is a small business, and they have such a beautiful array of sequins and pearls and things like that. They have other stuff as well, but I just really love their sequins. And I thought these really played off of the gold and the other colors that we have represented in this design here. I thought these played off of it really, really well. So I'm just going to put a scattering of those around, also using that glue wall from Elmer's. And then these cards are all done. I did toy with the idea of putting a sequin or a pearl in the middle of that poinsettia as the center, but honestly, I forgot. So they are what they are. So that is the card complete. I appreciate you spending time with me. I hope you felt inspired, and we'll see you next time. Bye.